Team 2.1, and today we've prepared a very special mini lecture for you on the topic of financial inclusion at the bottom of the pyramid. Now, here's a brief overview of what we're going to be looking at today. So, split into two parts. In part one, we're going to be talking about finance's role in breaking the cycle of poverty. So, I'm going to be talking here about basically the numbers of people who don't have a bank account and what are some of the barriers in their lives because of this fact. Next, we're going to move on to microfinance, and I'm going to give a very specific example of one of the pioneers in this space, which is Grameen Bank. And in part two, we're going to talk about something that is very relevant to the technology right now, which is decentralized finance and cryptocurrencies. Can it be a tool for financial inclusion? We're going to look into some advantages of DeFi and follow up with a very specific example of Zend Finance, which is a startup in Nigeria doing some really amazing things to include people. Now, 1.7 billion people worldwide are excluded from formal financial services. Now, that is a huge number. The problem is with access, meaning without a bank account, these individuals rely on the cash economy. These people rely on fluctuating and unpredictable cash incomes. When they want to save value, they have to do so by either holding onto cash, owning livestock, or jewelry. Now, you can imagine this isn't the most efficient way to save value, as livestock can die and cash and jewelry can be stolen. When people without formal bank accounts want to send money, it's very difficult because they have to rely on friends and couriers to use buses to send money, basically, because they don't have any kind of infrastructure to send it. And another thing that's important to touch on is that if they are in an emergency and they have to borrow money, they have to turn to money lenders who are going to be charging notoriously high interest rates. And so traditional banks don't typically cater to these people who are at the bottom of the pyramid because traditional banks usually secure loans with collateral. And when you're poor, you just don't have any collateral. You have no assets. So for people who lack access to traditional banking, there is microfinance. And the example that we're going to be talking about is Grameen Bank. Now, Grameen Bank was started by a fellow named Mohammed Yunus as a response to the predatory lending that was happening during the 1974 famines in Bangladesh. He basically noticed that a lot of people under distress and in emergencies were borrowing money from money lenders who were charging them incredibly high prices for their interest. And so he started experimenting with microloans, and he realized that a lot of people were paying him back to a surprise. And this was because they were tired of the predatory lending, and the payment terms were reasonable. So we're going to be talking about how Grameen Bank works, specifically collateral-free microloans, which is their whole kind of business model, solidarity lending, the definition, and basically the system that Grameen Bank kind of runs on, and they're focused on women and the increased accessibility. So collateral-free loans, typical banks, you secure a loan against a physical asset, which is called collateral, and Grameen Bank doesn't require that, but instead there are these kind of things to follow, and these are the criteria that must be followed. Now, if you look at point 2, she must join a group, 5 members in one group, solidarity lending. Now, we're going to move on to this because this is an interesting concept, which is basically the backbone of this microfinance system that Grameen Bank runs on. Now, solidarity lending is a lending model where small groups of people can borrow money collectively, and they can repay the loan basically together, and this protects people in case one member kind of falls into financial distress, and another one can kind of make up for that. So in this way, joint liability replaces the tangible collateral. Over 95% of Grameen Bank loans are issued to women. The bank finds that women are typically better at honoring their repayments than men because the funds are used for the good of the whole family. There's another interesting thing about Grameen Bank, which is the simple interest that they charge. Other traditional banks will charge compound interest on a principal. Grameen Bank won't do that because, as you can see from this orange line, compound interest increases exponentially, and so to pay that back would be a nightmare for most people living below the poverty line, and so they charge simple interest on their loans, with the caveat that there's a 1-year loan repayment period and there have to be weekly installments. Grameen Bank increases the access to finance for people living in villages. Currently, as of September 2021, Grameen Bank covers 93% of Bangladeshi villages. You can see the numbers there on the screen. I mean, it's amazing. 97% of these 9.43 million members are women. And by all metrics, Grameen Bank has been a huge success in outreach, in its loan portfolio growth, in institutional growth. They have just provided bottom of the pyramid solutions to people and have been successful with it. So now we're moving on to part 2, and we're going to be talking about DeFi. DeFi as a tool for boosting financial inclusion. What is DeFi? DeFi is basically aiming to use technology to remove the intermediaries between the parties involved in a financial transaction. So banks and brokerages exist to facilitate transactions between two parties. Decentralized finance replaces that old model by using software. Now, this is fully digital, and money is kept in something called a digital wallet. And there is an important distinction to make between stablecoins, which are the currency that DeFi is stored in, and fiat currency, which is the typical, US dollar, euro. And the way that stablecoins kind of don't fluctuate too much is that they are traded against fiat currency. Now, we're going to look at the positive cases for DeFi. As I mentioned at the beginning of the lecture, 2 billion people are not connected to the banking system in this world. This means 2 billion people can't save money safely, they don't have access to pension funds or insurance. An interesting trend in Africa is that there is a huge adoption of mobile money. And this just drives home the point that bottom of the pyramid consumers actually accept advanced technologies readily, because what's happened in Africa is that they have leapfrogged, basically. And for people who aren't familiar with this, the leapfrogging effect accelerates development of mobile banking in Africa because they skip inferior and less efficient, more expensive infrastructure like institutional banks, and they can move directly into more advanced, technologically advanced solutions like mobile banking and DeFi. 45% of the world's mobile money transactions occur in Africa, so that's something to think about. Another positive case for DeFi is the fast and safe transfer of money. We talked earlier about how people had to send money with couriers or with family members on buses. Not very secure, not very safe. With this, it's just a click of a button. As long as you have access to internet, you can send your money fast and safely. This also, we're going to see with the next example with Zend Finance. DeFi is a great way to protect against currency devaluation. Zen Finance is a Nigerian startup tackling the problem of fluctuating currency valuations through DeFi. They're addressing how in some African countries you have politically unstable nations that their currency really depends on the political situation. And so by removing the fiat currency and moving into DeFi, they can kind of protect against that. So Zen Finance's mission, first of all, is to make DeFi available for all income levels, including people at the bottom of the pyramid, provide safety net for people who live in countries with unstable fiat currency, and to allow people to save funds and earn high levels of interest. Not only does Zen Finance offer basically banking to people who don't have an institutional bank. These are people who typically only have access to their mobile phones, and with the Zen Finance, they can send money, they can save their money in stable currencies, they can earn high interest on the money that is saved. They can earn up to 15% actually sometimes. Traditional bank rates only offer 1 to 2% because they take the majority of the cut. Zen Finance also offers flexible loans with good payment terms. And another important thing for people without traditional banking is they cannot get insurance, but with Zen Finance, they can. And this is decentralized insurance to protect their assets and investments, typically not available to unbanked people. Now, there is one caveat. One of the biggest problems with DeFi in Africa, connectivity. You can see from this figure from 2017, International Telecommunication Union, only 22% of Africa is currently connected to the World Wide Web. Now, that figure might be a little more now, but this still outlines a huge problem in providing mass access to financial services for people at the bottom of the pyramid. It really depends on the African Union and the World Bank's ability to connect the citizens of Africa to the World Wide Web. Now, I'm just going to leave you guys with 2 discussion questions. The first one is from part 1 and the second one is from part 2. Do you think microloans are an effective solution to curbing poverty? What additional products or services might help people at the bottom of the pyramid become more financially secure? And the second question, the DeFi ecosystem is a field of experiments and attempts at innovation. Considering Africa's poor infrastructure and the lack of experience in deploying technology on a large scale, do you think bringing decentralized finance to Africa will just be another failed experiment or not? Let us know. We're really interested to hear what you think. Thank you so much for paying attention to this presentation. Here are the list of sources. I will be posting these slides along with the recording. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.